If you let go of your insistence on those neat and tiny little bows, pretending that everything is perfect and reasonable, and instead accept that the world is going to hit you with some shit and there's nothing you can do about it, you'll probably be more ready to deal with it when it happens. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "Demand not that things happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will go on well." Quick note here, I'm packing up my house this week, so this episode will be a short one. Thanks for listening anyway. I'm Jessica, and I used to live on Easy Street. I had nice things, and I ate and drank whatever I wanted. But the truth was, I lived paycheck to paycheck at a job I hated. Eating and drinking whatever I wanted made me fat and miserable. I had constant heartburn and hangovers, and I was drowning in debt. Today, I'm fit and happy, and I want the same thing for you. Join me each week, and let's commit to doing something hard together. Because it turns out that Easy Street is a dead end. The only way to become your best self is to take the path of most resistance. Not killing myself might be the hardest challenge I ever do, and like it or not, it will never end until I die. But I'm determined that whatever does kill me won't be me. I've done enough stupid things in my life that I probably should have died several times. Luckily for me, so far, I've managed to outlive my stupidity. Now, if you've never had a suicidal thought in your life, good for you. You'll cream the challenge this week because our only goal this week is to stay alive. According to the CDC, and I'll link to the stats in the show notes, suicide was the 11th leading cause of death overall in the U.S. in 2021. Here's one even more horrifying. 915 kids aged 10 to 14 died from unintentional injury, the number one cause of death in that age group. But the second leading cause was suicide, with 598 deaths. Suicide also made it into the top 3 causes of death for both the 15 to 24 age group and the 25 to 34 age group. Clearly, we're not doing something right here if children are already bailing on this world. And maybe they're right to bail. If you grew up watching your parents get beat down by the system, becoming automatons in the machine, why would you want any part of that? Have you ever heard anyone say that they were doing a job that was Sisyphean? Me neither, because most people don't bring Greek mythology up in normal conversation. But if you had heard that, it meant the task that they were performing was a lot of hard work and a total waste of their time, but they had to do it anyway. Kind of like pushing a rock up a hill for eternity. Yeah, that was Sisyphus. He started out as a mortal man, a king even, but he managed to piss off the gods by escaping from the grasp of the underworld, not once, but twice. So they sentence him to roll a boulder up a mountain for eternity. Every time he makes it to the top, the boulder rolls back down to the bottom, and he has to start over. I say that in the present tense because, obviously, if he's doing it for eternity, he's still doing it right now. Poor guy. What a crappy afterlife, having to push a rock up a hill for eternity. And not just a pebble. No, the kind of rock you really got to put your back into and push with your whole body. A lot of hard work. And for what? So it can roll to the bottom again and you can start all over? Yeah, I remember feeling that way. Get up far too early. Commute for far too long. Work for far too long. Commute back home for far too long. And barely have time to catch my breath before I had to do it again. Catch up on sleep on the weekends if I'm lucky, but usually I wasn't lucky. Do it again tomorrow. And the next day. And the next day. And the next day. When you realize that this is your life and it's not going to change anytime soon, you just might feel like killing yourself. Instead, let's talk about hope. Hope is what gets us out of bed. If we knew without a shadow of doubt that things were never going to get better, I would stay in bed until I died. Hope is what drives us into the future, like Scarlett O'Hara. Tomorrow is another day. But we shouldn't hope for tomorrow. Tomorrow is one day closer to death. Instead, we should confront the absurd. And what is the absurd? Well, I'll tell you. There was this French philosopher named Camus, and he had this idea that we, as human beings, are rational, reasonable creatures. We like things tied up in neat little bows. But this world that we live in is not rational, it's not reasonable, and we have a hard time reconciling those two things. We need the world to make sense, and sometimes things happen that just don't make sense. It's completely absurd, right? Camus also said, there's only one really serious philosophical question, and that is suicide. Now, what he means by that is if you want to embark on a philosophical quest, The question of suicide must be the first one you solve for yourself, because if the answer to that one is death, then the rest don't really matter, do they? In weighing your decision, you must accept that if you choose life, you will be living within this absurd contradiction, that the world is completely unreasonable and will be tending to chaos the entire time. So, good luck with that. For real though, if you can accept that the world is absurd and that it will be a constant struggle, no matter what, in a way, it frees you. You won't get your hopes let down if you know better than to hope in the first place. Look, Camus takes it pretty far. As I see it, he says, without hope, you don't need to worry about the future anymore. And if you don't need to worry about the future anymore, then why worry about anything? Just live life to the fullest and do whatever you want, because it doesn't matter. I'm not sure I agree with all of his philosophy, but parts of it do hit me. If you let go of your insistence on those neat and tiny little bows, pretending that everything is perfect and reasonable, and instead accept that the world is going to hit you with some shit and there's nothing you can do about it, you'll probably be more ready to deal with it when it happens, whatever it is that happens. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, demand not that things happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will go on well. Returning to Sisyphus, Camus had some thoughts about that too. He's the one that first pointed out to me that Sisyphus's eternal punishment was not unlike our lives today on the hamster wheel. And that's why The Myth of Sisyphus and Other Essays by Albert Camus is the book for this week's challenge. I'm going to spoil it for you right now, but you should read it anyway. Camus says, look, what Sisyphus is doing is completely absurd. Well, while he's pushing the rock up the hill, he's too busy doing the work to think about the futility of it. But on the way back down, he has time to think about how shitty his eternal life is. But Camus says, if Sisyphus can come to accept that, to embrace and confront the absurd, then he can find happiness in the struggle. And we can too. In a way, it's like gamifying life. When you finally understand that our lives are absurd and that it's probably always going to be a struggle, that's when you start winning the game. Look at every challenge that comes your way as an opportunity to kick some ass and beat back the absurdity. Do like Jocko Willink and say, good, when bad things come your way. Another chance to prove what a badass I am. So this week's challenge is to be a badass and not kill yourself. Don't become a statistic that some podcaster reads off of a chart. Embrace the struggle because, like Camus said, the struggle itself towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. That'll do it for this week. For my subscribers, there isn't any bonus material this week. I've just been too busy trying to fit my entire life into an 8-foot square container. I'm still holding the biweekly challenge check-in calls on Zoom, though, so if you're a paid subscriber, I'll see you there. Thanks for joining me as always, and until next week, you can do it. I believe in you. Peace. The challenges and score sheets are always free, but if you want to get more out of it, you can join the Path of Most Resistance as a paid subscriber on Substack. This option will get you access to the community chat, along with a link to the weekly challenge check-in calls. Want to push yourself even harder? I also do one-on-one coaching. Click the link in the show notes to book your free discovery call with me. Thanks for listening, and if you're enjoying the show, please share it with anyone else you think is up for a challenge.